And then we all left Versailles and went to Paris and had a day off, did some sightseeing, chilled out.
Ali and Liam, one of the actors, stand at the bottom of the Eiffel Tower. The Arc de Triomphe. A Paris courtyard with a flame flickering in a memorial stand. The company take photographs and chat.
And I took the time to revisit the place that I had gone to do my initial research 5 years before, when I'd found Jacques Lousseron's house. And I went back to his place, which was on the Boulevard Port Royal, I think it is. And again, we found his doorway, the doorway which is written in his autobiography that was published in 1953, but was describing a place of sort of 12 years prior to that in 1941, which was a doorway where all the recruits to his resistance cell came to be interviewed by him.
First 1600 hours. Go to the blind one. It is rumoured in the year leading up to now that 600 boys have taken the road to Lousseron's apartment.
Boulevard Port Royal, opposite the maternity hospital.
One of the original 52 watches a classmate for weeks before eventually being sent on to him.
The entrance is between the chemist and the sweet shop.
4 flights of 10 steps each lead to his front door, painted dark green.
And the doorway was opposite the maternity hospital on this road and lay between a sweet shop and a chemist. And when, back in 2001, I'd followed that description in the book and found the maternity hospital and opposite a doorway that was between a sweet shop and a chemist, I could not believe that sort of 60 years on or something, you know, this sort of environment was preserved in Paris in such a way. So we went back to the spot and were filming it, and Eileen turned up because she said she wanted to have a look at the doorway, this famous green door that is described so vividly in the play. As we were looking at the green door, it opened, and somebody was coming out of this apartment block, and it was just like one of those spontaneous moments. As they were coming out, I said to him, let's go in, let's go in. So we took the opportunity to walk through and went in through the green door and into the courtyard of these flats that were all there in their original kind of state. I mean, obviously they were kind of built in the, I don't know, Victorian time possibly. And we looked at the courtyard, and they had these different sort of entrances that went into different parts, different blocks that were part of this courtyard. And so one of them was open, and we said, let's go up the stairs, let's go and see what they're like. And these stairs that led up to the 4th floor, which was, we knew from his book, was the floor that he lived on.
We need 2 rooms at the back of our apartment. They've got their own door and corridor. And what's the plan? A meeting will be held there. Wednesday, 5 p.m. sharp. I swear, on my mother's life, I'm with you. Me too. There was no time for me to...
They all seemed like they had the original features, you know, and so we climbed up these stairs and they made this echoey kind of redolent sound, which, you know, he describes in his book, you know, he hears the noise of all these boys coming up the stairs, and as we climbed up the stairs, you know, we felt that we were recreating that sound. And we got up to the 4th floor, and there were these front doors of these apartments, and again they looked like they had the original features, these sort of door handles on and that, and it was just, it felt almost like a gift to be able to access this physical, real space that he would have been in and that he was writing about and describing. And I think that there was somebody who was coming out of their door, and we had his book in our hand, and this guy didn't speak any French. He didn't speak any English at all, and we were pointing at the book and Jacques Lousseron's name and seeing whether this guy knew anything about. And then he drew a blank. He said, "Go and ask the concierge," but we knew that they probably wouldn't know what we were talking about and think we were completely mad. And so we came out, and then we went to the sweet shop next door, and that's like a confectioner's that sells quite posh chocolates, and we bought some chocolates in there, I remember, and we pointed to the book at the shop owners and said, did they know anything about, you know, the author, and they said no, but the shop had been there like for decades or something. So that all felt very poignant. And that was the night that the show played at the International Lycée in Saint-Germain. And I was expecting Claire Luceron to turn up at that show, who was Jacques Luceron's daughter. We'd had some communication with her over the months about obtaining the rights to the live performance of the play. And when she knew that the play was retouring and coming to France, she booked some tickets to see the show in Saint-Germain. But unfortunately, she didn't turn up and didn't give us any reason why she didn't turn up at the end of the day. And again, I was very, very disappointed in that, because it would have been, I think it would have been really wonderful to have had her there. And she missed out on a performance which, again, was quite... that experience of the performance in that lycée was very it was quite eerie, because the lycée had previously been a chateau, and a chateau that had been taken over by the Gestapo during the Second World War, and interrogations had been carried out in this chateau. We found out about that the day that we were setting up and doing the get-in for the show. And there were interviews that were taken with various lecturers and at the college about this story.
Claire Lewis, lycée tutor, a middle-aged Caucasian woman.
Yes, apparently during the war this was occupied by the Germans and perhaps by the SS too, and it was the kind of west side of Paris, as it's set up very high. It protected the west side of Paris. So for them it was a beautiful chateau which they could occupy, but I think there was interrogation that went on here too. So it's particularly interesting that this play should be performed here. It's quite chilling really, because we're in the lower ground floor, the cellars, and who knows what it may have been used for.
That night felt quite oppressive. It sounds a bit negative, but it felt quite closed in, and I don't know quite whether it was a kind of hangover from this previous life of this building, but there was something that felt quite heavy, certainly that evening, I know. And it wasn't just the fact that the show was sold out and had been sold out for months, and and the students at the lycée, I think, brought this particular focus to their attention, because for me anyway, I felt that they were serious students in the way that Jacques Luceron was a serious student, and I think there was that kind of respect that was there in the audience for the character and the story and the production, and they put on a nice party for us afterwards, and it was again, it was a very different experience to Versailles, but it felt equally as meaningful. And I felt really, at the time when I was exhausted, but I felt really proud.
The whole company are gathered on the roof of the chateau, waving to camera.
Of everybody involved, and proud of myself, and astonished as well, and slightly kind of delirious and disbelieving in the fact that we were doing it, we were there, we pulled it off, it happened, and it was in people's consciousness, so that was great.